a long time. He's an NFL analyst now who said, the guy's moody. A lot of other people commented on his demeanor, that he's not really a leader. The winning thing is kind of ridiculous. If you walk into a situation where the organization isn't great and they're rebuilding, you're not going to win right out of the gates. Like people were comparing Baker Mayfield, wins to Murray. Like Baker Mayfield walked into what was mostly a complete product. That's not fair. But on his attitude, would that dissuade you? His maturity, would that dissuade you from giving him $160 million guaranteed?
I mean, we're not around him every day, so we don't really know. From the outside, it seems like he has been a guy that has played at a very high level for sure. His teammates seem to like him for the most part. All those things are pretty good, but clearly there's been issues. I mean, the pulling everything off of Instagram and then saying you old people don't understand what that means. I've never understood that.
We do. It means you're childish.
Of course. And it means you're separating yourself from the franchise. Like that's what it means. Mm-hmm. I don't.
Okay. We see the clause. We see some of these clauses in this contract.
Yeah.
A little bit weird.
Very weird.
So what's the study clause?
So Kyler Murray is required by contract to spend at least 4 hours of independent study each week during game weeks. Game weeks are defined as the first Monday after the close of training camp to the end of the season. So he's got a 4-hour requirement, which means he has to be logged in to the iPad or other electronic device. So maybe if they update, I think that also kind of stood out to me because I thought wasn't the Microsoft Surface the official tablet of the NFL? So the iPad being the contract specifically was a little odd. But he has to be studying at least 4 hours a week, and that doesn't include time in the building. That's time on your own. And there is a clause in that article of the contract that says this means you cannot be doing other things while studying, like watching TV and playing video games.
Ooh.
It's a bizarre clause that's in a contract, and one that tells you obviously the Cardinals are worried. Now, Kyler Murray has come out and said, I'm not a film guy. I'm a reaction guy.
Which there is no such thing. Really, at quarterback? You have to be a film guy, too.
I think there has to be a measure of both, for sure. Yeah. And he didn't say that he doesn't watch film.
Honestly, a lot of this goes back to what Keyshawn Johnson said a year ago, where he was like, I would rather have – he actually said Russell Wilson. He'd rather have Derek Carr or Russell Wilson. And Keyshawn's case – and Keyshawn was a gigantic receiver, but Keyshawn's case was, I don't really want to be out there trying to find open space, 8 seconds into a play. Like, worrying about the scramble drill.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I think that right now is what Kyler Murray thrives with, but he should be able to run just about anything on offense. And if that requires being prepped more before the game and doing more film study, you want a $230 million contract, you've got to do what all the great guys do.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting in that you can certainly monitor when a guy logs in and how long he's in there and what he's actually doing on the iPad that you, or other electronic device that you provide to him. But it's gonna be tough to monitor what else he's doing while he's logged in. So that's an interesting part of this as well. And it essentially can potentially void the contract if he's not doing it, which is crazy.
We're rolling video right now on Twitter and on Facebook, and Brady chimed in and he said, do they have tracking software to ensure that he's actively studying and not just logged in? I think they do, but the other thing they could do, and this story came out with the Raiders' experience with a number one pick.
Yeah, Jamarcus Russell.
In the past, like they would come in and basically ask Russell fake questions to find out if he was doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Well, they were sending him home they were sending him home empty film.
Okay, there you go.
So they would give him an empty, I think it was VHS at the time. I'm not sure it was electronic. But they would give him a blank tape, and then the next day say, what'd you see on film? And he would give answers, and they would say, dude, what? There was nothing on there. What are you talking about? So clearly he didn't watch it, and he recently talked about that and said, I think they were just playing gotcha games. Like, no. You're the one that's lying. What are you talking about?
And this has happened. This is, in a lot of ways, this is the difference between being an NFL quarterback who gets to play or, the highest level and someone who's out of the league in 4 years. Remember Paxton Lynch, right?
You love video games.
Love video games. We had Pritch on when Paxton Lynch, a first-round pick of the Broncos, it was not working out. And he said going into a season, he's like, hey, that's the reputation. This guy does not study. Think back again. Think back again. Jerry Jones and crew get a pat on the back all the time for drafting Dak Prescott. They wanted Paxton Lynch. They did.
Didn't they want Manziel too? It's different draft.
Think about how lucky they are.
Yeah.
Because Dak does study. Dak does, do what he's supposed to do, and hopefully he's back to 100% physically this year and can, deliver on all of his abilities.
Number 2.
Lots of lists. We're still getting them. Best players in the NFL under 25. How many Raiders are on this list?
0.
Wait, what?
So it's not a list necessarily, not like a 1 to 100 list, anything like that. It's basically an all-pro team. It's somebody at every position.
Okay, well, Max Crosby has to be one of the defensive ends or outside linebackers.
I didn't see him on there.
Well, he has to be.
26?
Nope.
25?
He's 24, and
Wow.
he'll be 25, if I'm correct, on August 22nd. I have all the birthdays of the Raiders memorized.
That's impressive. I'm sure that I assume that you just went right and looked him up.
No, I looked it up about 7 hours ago, but
Okay.
I did remember. I think we're getting a nod of yes from the vast research crew led by Ari and only Ari.
There's a Bosa,
Okay.
so he's behind him. Christian Barmore at defensive line as well. Jeffrey Simmons, and Rashawn Gary at the other edge.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I mean, I'm sure it's something that Max Crosby is going to use as motivation
Just don't misquote him. We don't want to have any ugliness in the press room.
for sure.
Actually, there was no misquoting last week.
No.
Rashawn Gary, he has turned into a good player.
Yeah.
Your guy
Yeah.
from Michigan.
Yeah, no question about it. He's a good player. I think Max Crosby probably has a case to be annoyed. I don't know exactly what their criteria necessarily was. Obviously, he was a very disruptive force in the backfield last year. There are still questions out about Max Crosby's ability against the run.
Okay.
For sure.
Would there be another candidate under 25 with the Raiders?
Nate Hobbs?
You would think Renfro, but Renfro's actually older.
Yeah.
He was a little bit older when he was coming to the NFL at 24.
Yeah. I mean, Hobbs had a really good year, but it was 1 year.
So is this a sign that the organization's in trouble?
Oh, Trayvon Merrick, I think, should be.
You do?
Yeah, I think he should be at least considered. Not necessarily that he would that he was like snubbed or anything like that, but he's a really, really good player.
Minkah Fitzpatrick, Jordan Whitehead.
Both really good.
So Merrick and Crosby are right there.
Yeah.
So it's not a roster without any elite talent under 25. It is an older roster though when you think about it. Aside from what they're trying to do on the offensive line, it is an older roster. Which is why we've this whole offseason, Adam started the offseason with it's time to strip it down and start to build for 4 years from now. But then you have Josh McDaniels come in who wants to kind of play, at least see what happens this year. I think that's the attitude, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
and they did get older with Chandler Jones. So
and it's why, by the way, and as much as people don't want to, some people don't want to acknowledge this, it's why Derek Carr was signed to a 1-year deal. And I know it's a 3-year deal, but it's a 1 year out. Let's see what we have with this team. Can they compete, or are they the fourth best team in the division, like the odds would say they are? And if they finish fourth, I would imagine that they're going to strip it down after this year.
Number 1.
wow, we're getting reports on the Germany game.
I really thought you were going to say Choco Taco.
We got an update on
Wow.
Taco. All right, on the way back, I do want to talk about the game in Germany. It's the Bucks and the Chiefs. And who better to talk to? Got that right?
It's Bucks. Is it Chiefs?
I might have the wrong team. We'll get it updated on the way back. But anyway, apparently that game did really, really well from a ticket standpoint. And over the weekend, you guys with the regular Raiders media.
Seahawks Bucks.
You guys with the regular Raiders media that's out there every day. Hey, Jakob Johnson walks in, right? So we got to ask about Germany, right? Naturally. Jakob had some pretty cool things to say about just how crazy it is in Germany over the NFL.
It's the Big 5 at 5, brought to you by Battle Born Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured, call Justin Watkins at Battle Born Injury Lawyers, 570-9000.
This traffic report is brought to you by Brakes Only Mobile Service.